So the main reason I went out of town was for a White Plum Asanga meeting. And the White Plum Asanga is the community of teachers who have been transmitted the Dharma through Maizumi Roshi's line. Okay, so Taizan Maizumi Roshi was a Japanese Soto priest and teacher who was sent on a mission to go bring Soto Zen to America. And he tried various ways to do that. In fact, I think I learned recently he first tried to be a part of San Francisco Zen Center and like teamed up with Suzuki Roshi or something like that. But ultimately started his own place, Zen Center of Los Angeles, in 1967. So next year is going to be the 60th anniversary of Zen Center of Los Angeles. So he kind of established Soto Zen there, but also his own particular brand. The Soto school, for which he was a missionary, was kind of very clearly becoming this almost like funeral service factory. And, you're 18 and your family sends you to the monastery and you train for 3 years and you get your certificate and your degree and you go home and you perform funerals and report to the hierarchy. And if you stay with it over time, you can, it's, almost like military kind of like ranks and whatnot. And very little sitting, very little emphasis on actual awakening practice. And of course, Maizumi Roshi on his own kind of sought out koan practice. He sought out working with Rinzai teachers. So he really had this thirst for a more kind of old school Zen Chan Buddhism kind of path. And so that's what he wanted to bring here. And so he established that at Zen Center of Los Angeles. His first couple students were Bernie Tetsugen Glassman Roshi. Bernie Glassman, a lot of us know him. He kind of became famous. And another primary student was, what's his first name? Genpo. What? Craig? No. Do you remember Yuriko? No. Genpo. Anyway, Genpo Merzel. They were kind of the first two main students and successors who established the kind of Western lineage. And so basically, from them is this big tree, this big family tree that is the White Plum Asanga. Anyone who has received official Dharma transmission, empowerment to autonomously teach the Dharma through Maizumi Roshi. And now there's like over 250 teachers in that lineage in just 60 years. And that's just the people who signed up to be a part of the White Plum. There might be a whole bunch of other teachers who didn't even, do the official application to be in the White Plum group. So there could be 300, 350. And so what is being transmitted? What is that to say, here's a group of people who have received transmission in this lineage? Well, theoretically, we have the Buddha 2,500 plus years ago, who sits under a tree, birds make nests in his hair, and one morning he looks up at the morning star and has some kind of experience that other people are like, wow, you seem really cool. You should tell us about what you saw, what you felt in that experience. And so he does that and he starts teaching. And then one day he goes to teach for all these people and he holds up a flower, and one of his students cracks a smile at the flower, and Buddha says, "You there, you get it. You see what I see. I transmit my dharma, I transmit my mind, I transmit my understanding to you. Now you have to go have your own students and transmit it to them so that we can pass this on." And so then theoretically, one by one, it's passed down, that mind-to-mind transmission. You see what I see. And hopefully, you actually, your student actually hopefully surpasses you as a teacher and understands the Dharma even more intimately, even more deeply than you. And now they're giving you turning words, enlightening words. And so you then have that kind of intimacy, that mind-to-mind connection, and you transmit the Dharma. So according to that, here's this group of people meeting in Holland who are 2,500 years surpassed the Buddha and his enlightenment. And still, we don't have a really good answer for what is it that is transmitted. We have stories, we have books. One of the koan books we study goes through the first 50 stories of that transmission in our lineage. And some of those stories are the teacher comes to a town and the town wino is carrying a bottle of wine and screaming at everybody, and he says, "That's my guy. Here's my mind." So I'm trying to paint as ridiculous of a picture as I can here, on purpose, because one of the biggest hindrances to our practice is having some kind of idea of what enlightenment is, what it looks like, what it feels like, how it manifests. And I got a real solid crash course in that going to this conference. So here I am in a very, very, very Japanese traditional style monastery in Holland, right? This guy, Anton Tenkei Cooper. Shoot, I forget his last name. I'm so sorry, Tenkei. Really sweet guy, Tenkei Roshi. He wanted to manifest Maizumi Roshi's lineage in a very Japanese way. So they have this big building. It functions as a monastery. They have people from all over the world coming to practice there. They wake people up with the official Japanese monastery bells and the, official succession sequence of bells and drums, whole, composition of bells and drums just to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and then you go sit for an hour and a half, and then you go do a very, very formal Japanese service with all the robes and the sticks and the incense and the offering and full, very similar to what some of us saw at Eiheiji and Sojiji, the main headquarter temples of Soto Zen in Japan. And I'm there with 50 other White Pluma Sangha members. All right, not all 250 came. We couldn't accommodate that many. And 50 people from all over the world. The center that's hosting it is this very Japanese monastic style practice. The meals are eaten oryoki style, so this very specific choreographed way to do meals, how to serve and eat. Every single motion is very delicately choreographed. So you have that, and you have this lady over here who has actually never done a Japanese service before. And she lives in Ireland. And she has a small sitting group. And they do a couple chants in English. And they do a couple forms. And she got her transmission of my Zumi's lineage from a priest, a Christian priest. And everything in between. This guy is a Dutch guy who now has a hermitage in the mountains of Spain where like you can go visit, but there's no official program and they're literally just like a hermitage in Spain. And he's a white plum person. And you have psychiatrists and you have mechanics and you have housewives and what else was there? Professors and smart seeming people and not so smart seeming people and really arrogant people and really humble people and really loud people and really quiet, shy people. And somehow it was not racially diverse by any means, which is noteworthy. But as far as lifestyle and the way that they're manifesting this lineage, it could not have been more diverse. Which really begs the question, what is it that's transmitted? Here's this room of enlightened people. They've all been given the staff. And some people sat arduously in robes, learning deeply choreographed ritual for 20 years. And this person sat once a week for 6 years. Same transmission. Who's giving this transmission? And so it's enough to drive you crazy, right? And if it has anything to do with being able to like see somebody and, oh, they have the eye. In fact, there are some koans where the real prompting question is, did they have the eye or not? And without giving too much away, I think the more we walk around saying they get it, they don't, it's pretty problematic. So yeah, definitely encouraging myself and everyone to really watch for that, whether it's about Zen or smart or cool or whatever adjective you want to give it. That kind of like, I am the arbiter of who has or who doesn't have. It's very problematic. Very easy way to separate from other people that way. And it's impossible to ignore because, yeah, I spent the whole 4 days I was there being like, that guy doesn't know. Well, this person didn't even do the kuma. And I really caught myself doing that over and over again. And it's so problematic. And just really points to the fact that this practice is not about reaching something. It's not about getting something. It's not about some kind of standard that you can ultimately uphold. It's just about intimacy with your own experience and letting go of labels and titles and achievement, all that kind of stuff. I know people that practice diligently for 40 years and still don't have transmission. And people that practice for 6 years and get transmission. You can just do it forever. And as long as we're caring about judgment, title, achievement, whatever, we're just going to be stuck. And there's a great koan in the Blue Cliff Record that quotes the Suringama Sutra, which is one of those old, I don't know if it's a Pali Canon. Do you know Shoyu? The Surangama Sutra?
It's a Mahayana Sutra.
Mahayana Sutra. So it's a newer one. Newer. But there's a quote in it, and the koan says, the Surangama Sutra says, "When I don't see, why don't you see my not seeing? If you see my not seeing, that is not characteristic of not seeing. If you don't see my not seeing, then naturally it is not a thing. How could it not be you?" So I think that perfectly sums up all the rigmarole we try to do, seeing, not seeing, he got it, they got it, she's got it, I don't have it, this way, do it forever. But how could this whole universe just not be you? All the having, all the not having, all the life, all the death is nothing but your true self. And Rakusu, title aside, doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. And I will further illustrate that, because even though I met a lot of wonderful people at this conference, heard a lot of, great insight, and, it's a chance to see how different people do it at their centers, and who's changing what chants, and who's keeping what traditions, and who's teaching in what way. And that's really interesting, and it's helpful. I came upon 2 true Buddhas on my travels, and they were not at this conference. And so I just wanted to share my story of my Buddhas on my travels. As I was leaving the monastery in Holland, I walked to the train station, and this is in this tiny little town called Althausen in Holland. It's 3.5 hours outside Amsterdam. You got to take 3 trains to get there. It's nothing but farmland. It's beautiful. But it's a tiny town in the middle of nowhere. And as I approach the train station, I see this guy walking around, and he's dressed as what I consider, what I associate with skinhead dress. So he's got a shaved head, a t-shirt, shorts and boots, and tattoos. So I'm a little wary of this person, and he's walking away. Okay, good. I would like to stay away. I don't know what this town is about. But anyway, he comes up to me with a big smile, saying, "Are you waiting for the train?" I say, "Yes." He says, "Oh, well, you'll have to wait over there. Where are you from?" United States. Anyway, he ended up being the sweetest, nicest, kindest guy. I guess I can't speak to what some of his other cultural stuff may be, but based on how kind and open he was, I'm assuming he is not a hate-filled person. He even gave me a local, very obscure Dutch candy. And welcome to Holland, and just so sweet. But the moment that just really stuck with me, other than his kindness and softness, I said, because I was really curious about this guy, and one of the questions I like to ask people, I said, "What do you love to..." Well, okay, first let me say that, I asked him about him, and he lives in the town, and he works as a paper boy, or man. This guy was probably in his 50s or 60s. And so he delivers papers every morning. And he asked what I was doing there. And I said, well, there's this monastery, and I said, and now I'm traveling, and blah, blah, blah. And then I asked him, what do you love to do? And without hesitating, he said, deliver newspapers. Isn't that amazing? Just total, and, not an ounce of thought to it. not an ounce of affect or thinking it's a cool thing to say, just as genuine and authentic as can be. It's what I do. Chop wood, carry water, turn the compost, write the members an email. What do you love to do? Deliver newspapers. This is just so beautiful. So yeah, that was him. And then the other Buddha I met was in Frankfurt, Germany. So I took the train from Holland to Germany, and I just had a day there. And I was walking around, and I walked by this pond where there were some ducks, big pond, kind of like a park situation. And I walked over to some ducks, and there was a man sitting on a bench. You know, I don't think, at least in those places, homelessness doesn't really exist there like it does here. I think there are more services from what I could gather. So I don't know if he was actually unhoused, but he, based on, could be a judgment. Maybe he lives in a mansion. I don't know. But based on how he was dressed and various other things, he was at least on the margins. And he called to me. He said, "Hello, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from the United States." "Oh, where?" I said, "San Diego." "Oh, La Jolla, very nice." I said, "La Jolla?" He's like, "Yes, I lived in La Jolla." "Wow." I said, "Yes, I lived in Arizona too." "Where are you from?" "I was born in Morocco." "I also lived in New York City." And he said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, fuck, I'll just tell him. I run a Zen Buddhist temple." He said, "Oh, Nam Yo Ho Renge Kyo." I'm just like, wow, what's your name? "Jamal." "What's your name?" "Bobby." And I said, "What do you love to do?" He said, "Smoke weed and drink Coca-Cola."
So California.
And and then he offered me some of his Coke, which was so nice. I said, "Well, it's very nice to meet you." And before I left, he said, "Remember, there's no being, only being with." I know that's just like a phrase, and we have lots of phrases that are inspiring, but for some reason, that really hit me. So, those were the Buddhas I met on the road. So, we don't have much time, but I also thought it was important to acknowledge that at this White Plum conference, as much as we were talking about how great Maizumi Roshi was and how great our lineage is and how we're going to carry forth enlightenment, I think it was really important and encouraging, and I feel it is my duty to share it with our Sangha, and on the recording, hello at home, that as much as we were talking about enlightenment and how great, blah, 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 it also was very on everybody's lips how much harm and misconduct is integral to our lineage. And this white plum thing that we're doing, you know, it's a little harsh, and I don't really mean it, but rots from the head. So Maizumi, the very guy who started this lineage, did get embroiled in multiple sexual scandals. And in the blink of an eye. And, I mean, we're talking like grooming minors. There was one case of that. And so when it all came out, this great Zen Center of Los Angeles with hundreds of members, everyone left. Or, a lot of people left. And I think so, a lot of people were talking about what a great Zen teacher Maizumi was, but also that one of his most important teachings was that he was so flawed. He was an alcoholic. He raged at people, and he used his power for sexual abuse. So it's an amazing lesson that our teachers are flawed, problematic people. Very important. But B, he took accountability. He got it. It took him losing his Sangha, but he went to anger management. He went to rehab. He took, I think, I don't know if he did what's it called? Sex Addicts Anonymous. And he, for those who were close to him, said that he really atoned every day of his life. So it's a start. That's a start. Those two successors that I mentioned, Bernie and Genpo. Bernie was notorious for manipulating people into giving him money and getting them to volunteer their whole lives for his vision. And then when he didn't need them anymore, just totally cast them aside. And he also did a little bit of atonement for that. I think he, in his later years, saw that and did his best to make amends. But still, that is harm. All of this is harm that ripples forward. And then this other guy, Genpo, was like traveling around the world putting notches on his bedpost with his students. And kind of apologized, but ultimately the White Plum asked him to take boundary courses to really try to atone and change his character. And he said, basically, F off. No way. I'm leaving the White Plum. I didn't do it. He definitely, basically, the way I understand it, and I've never met him, I haven't heard his side, but enough corroboration that he was kind of just like, I can do what I want. I'm enlightened. I've even heard firsthand accounts of like, I can enlighten people by having sex with them. I mean, just like the worst things. And being in Holland, all of the European, I would say it was half European teachers, and basically the entire European White Plum contingent is Genpo line people, right? So Bernie kind of did a lot of the American tree branches, in addition to other of Maizumi's successors, of course. But Genpo kind of did this little European conquering thing. And some of his successors ended up with sex scandals with their students. So there's no happy ending to this story. I'm sorry to say it. I just think that something that came up as we were talking about this, because this was brought up, and we're not trying to sweep this under the rug, and that's why I think White Plum is special, and why I think we might actually have longevity, is because people really do care about addressing this. And the thing that kind of came up was, even if we're just looking at Maizumi's misconduct, Genpo's misconduct, it ripples out, and people have experienced harm and hurt at this center. Not in that way. But I just kind of got that scandal, that harm, that poison will make its way out in some kind of way. Even if it's, the way a teacher teaches a koan, all these subtle ways. It doesn't have to be egregious power abuse. Until we address the harm of our ancestors, it will continue. And so, yeah, I just really got from that conference that it's kind of my and kind of our responsibility, if we want to move forward without this harm in our intergenerational karma, that we have to really look at it and do what we got to do to heal it, point it out, investigate it. And through our practice, through just being in the yurt together, through our tea and cookies together, hanging out in the welcome center, all the various ways that we practice together, we have the opportunity to, we can't atone for perpetrators of harm, but we can acknowledge that that harm still exists in the bones of our lineage and address it, and work with it, penetrate it, digest it, process it, whatever we got to do best we can. And we can, because there is no being, just being with.